Hello, friends, and welcome to UA Legends, the podcast where each episode shines a spotlight on a hidden gem of the user acquisition world. I'll be your host, Adam, and together with my guests, we're going to deep dive into the wonderful world of user acquisition. We're going to tackle pressing industry topics and discuss the secrets behind my guests' successes. Please don't forget to follow us on AppsFlyer's YouTube channel, Spotify, Apple, or Amazon podcast channels. Okay, that's enough from me. Let's get on with it. Claire, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Adam. Super happy to be here. Thank you for having me. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm fantastic. It's so nice I love getting to do these every so often with people that I've worked with in the past. It's like a catch up.
I mean, you are good at it, even with people you didn't work with. Like I saw several episodes, and I think it's crushing it.
I enjoy it. I mean, I've always liked asking questions, so I think this suits me quite well. So.
Yeah, and actually there is a lot of questions nowadays with UA, so super excited today to deep dive into this, because since the time we work together, things really change. When we work together, we used to have an ADFA.
There was no scan when we worked together.
I think fraud was our only issue at the time. So I was like, what we are doing? Like,
all right. Well, do you want to start by telling all of the lovely people who you are, and really let's get to know you a little bit. So if you can tell us a bit about your interests, your history, how you got to where you are today, your story.
Oh, I'm blushing. Hello everyone, my name is Claire. I'm the CEO of Rzain Consulting. We worked with more than 10 studio games and apps those past months. So it has been really busy. Right now, I'm in the mission of growth lead at Wildcard Games, so one of the leaders of card games on the area. And before, I was working at Gameloft, Product Madness with the wonderful Adam, and also Match Group, Rovio, and yeah, that's it. That's me.
Excellent. And how did you originally get into user acquisition?
Really good question, because I started actually in customer relationship management. I was sending push notification and I got passionate about SEO. And from SEO, I jumped into user acquisition. Actually, I really loved, you get the user, what the user is excited about. So at the time in Match, it was actually dating
and
stuff.
Understanding search terms and that kind of stuff, like looking at Google Trends and...
Oh my God, user acquisition in dating is, I think I've been really persistent, because you learn that basically you need to do male, female targeting, and, males like women, creative, a bit suggestive and stuff. So it was my first experience. And from this, I worked with you at Product Madness. So maybe that's why I continued there.
Amazing. Okay. So what are we talking about?
Yes, so today I want to speak about, the change in user acquisition, because I think it drastically changed, especially on the channel you are using nowadays and the strategy you are using as well.
Yeah, because I mean, when we worked together, like the media mix was always, you had Facebook, you had Google, and those were the main ones, and then you had some smaller networks that you'd sort of sprinkle in to fill up the rest. How has that changed?
So I think the big one are still the big one, but there is some new that are emerging and working much better, but that have totally different behavior of Meta, Google, and the other source of traffics. One of them, of course, comes from Unity and is called Tapjoy, and is an incent that I think led the way with offerall and also daily rewards and all the kind of incentive user acquisition that you can have. And this totally messed user acquisition. When you think about it, we used to do a CPI campaign with maybe an audience targeting and things like this, and we will follow our cohort. Nowadays, we will launch an incent program, meaning we would have to know by day 3 where the user is at the game, and also the potential LTV the game is having, the user is having, and also match it with your bidding.
What I don't understand though is like when I was at Product Madness, I've said it so many times in this podcast already. We used to sort of almost we had a negative view of incentivized traffic in the fact that it was, that the people who are using incentivized traffic, or the people, the other side of the incentivized thing is generally an app or an offer wall or something, where they're going to get something in a different game if they get to a certain point in your game. Now,
Yes.
that inherently makes traffic that is going to stop playing at a certain point, no?
Yes, exactly. And that's what makes the curves so drastically hard and stressful for you and people, I think, to follow. And I think it's really misleading. But if you remember back in time, we had a big OEM also budget with digital turbine and so on. And I think actually those kind of curves, with low long-term retention are the one that we can maybe match the most with all what is incent program.
But has incentivized, has the traffic from incentivized improved over time? Like, have those networks managed to sort of understand the flaws in it, as it were, and be able to produce traffic that sticks?
So did they improve? I think like it didn't change. Like it's always the same. I think there is more offer, and you can actually have more opportunities. Like with Playtime now, Ajo is on it. You have Benjamin also, that is this new startup company. You have Gamelight and all those kind of folks. So I think you have more offer for sure on the mobile. And I think also it gets less banned, by Apple and things like this. At the time, everyone was scared to have their app that would be banned if they would advertise with it. But the thing is, even Google nowadays, they have their own incent program. But that being said, I would say like the long-term quality is definitely the tough point. And I think, like, of course, it's getting better because now people understood that you need to bid deeper in the funnel. You shouldn't basically do CPI. I think, a lot of people are doing it. I just don't believe in it. But doing CPI with incent for me is not making any sense because those guys are getting the user on Facebook in their app, and then you do another CPI campaign. It's like double thing. Just do your campaign.
Hang on. Let's just deep dive on that for a minute. I know you have the understanding of this, but what do you mean? How? Explain it.
Yes. So basically, how it works. So you have some network, like for instance, Ajo. They have their Playtime app. So it's different apps they have in the store. If you go on App Magic, you can see there is a lot of rewards app and things like this. All the big network now they have one, but they also buy in their inventory, but also on external inventory of other rewarded app. So how it works is that they need to have user into it. So that's why nowadays, like half of the ads you see is like rewarded ads, which is really funny. Like either you see a gaming ad or you see a rewarded ad. So
and these are apps where you can, as an end user, you can earn money or earn iTunes vouchers or whatever it may be for doing the tasks that they give you within these apps, right?
yes, actually, if you take Giraffe one, sorry, I can show you. So there is Cash Giraffe, for instance, you see, it's all an incent app is going to look. You are going to have rewards, so you have their own currency. You are going to have the games they advertise on, and ultimately you are going to have kind of small mission and small thing to earn more and more rewards. More you are doing, so of course you allow the rewarded app to read your activity on your mobile phone, and more you are going to achieve in the game some milestone, more you are going to be rewarded. And here, for instance, it's a big game. It's a big game app, so you see it's not only for hypercausal at all. Actually, it's working, I think, much easier for EAP games. You are rewarded. Your first reward is to complete level 7, and you have additional reward if you do an in-app purchase. Which is crazy, right? I mean, investors are just going to see the curves. They are going to be, oh my god, this is amazing! Everyone is doing the purchase.
I mean,
And
it's sort of edging towards affiliates rev share, but
exactly
to the end user. So you're getting a percentage of what you spend in apps back at the end of the day.
Exactly. And this is crushing it in dating on desktop. Like, Time One, Win, those guys, they made million with it. So I think, it arrived like maybe 10 years later on mobile, but now it's there. And now it's one of the channel of user acquisition.
So I guess they these companies are also running user acquisition to their app in
Yes.
order to get the users in that are going to be directed out to the other apps that they're giving the task lists to.
Yes, and what they do is only, game design economy, trade-off that they are doing, which is really smart, to be honest, because, I was in PGC Helsinki, I think it was Kick Cash or another one. I mean, every week there is a new one, so it's really hard
There
to
seems to
name
be at the
them.
moment, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like, but who are you getting your user? The guy, he was a bit ashamed. He was like, the usual suspect. I was okay, but which one? Oh, but we do on Meta. Okay, so you do your campaign on Meta. You just add a layer of economy, and then you are just having a business that's really profitable,
But
where you have
that
games and
by
other
its
paying
very
products.
nature is pushing up CPIs across the board, though, presumably, because anybody, if they're advertising on Meta as well, then gaming companies would be advertising in the same ad space, so the auction price is going to be going up because there's more competition, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's all, like nowadays, a game of distribution. And it's it's why it's working now. It's because you have an app where you have a value proposition of different distribution, where you can have either, monetary rewards, but you can also have, doing a donation, planting trees and things like this. And I think this is, really modern economy. Nowadays, Gen Zs are really avoiding payments. Some people, they don't even have credit card in the world. Like we know, like all the Latin America and other region are also paying with other ways, like even cryptocurrency and stuff like this. So it's perfect time, I think, in the world, even in a globalized economy, to make it happen. I think there is challenge though, because right now it's working really well in the US. Like in France, I see, you're paid in dollar. So I think there is still this problematic of currency localization, which is something we know really well in gaming, right?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so that and in terms of, I guess in terms of market share, that's obviously quite a big change from where it was previously a few years ago, right?
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm seeing some clients having 50% of their media buying that are only with the reward, because it's crazy. Like when you have a trade-off of 80% ROI happening day 7 versus, like day 365, even for casual games. It's a huge change. Huh? I mean,
But
it's insane.
are you seeing the traffic, like the retention element of the traffic? Does that last?
So it lasts depending on your bidding and on your offer that you are having as well. Because, like some offer here, we're speaking about Cash Giraffe and Pick Game One. Let's see, like the last event they have is level 5,000. 5,000 is quite deep of the funnel. So, like it all
You have
depends,
to
like
play
who
it
in
for a
your
year
case
and
you
a
are.
half. Yeah.
I mean, you have you have a lot of things to play, right? So I think it's all about how you basically make your pricing and the completion rate you are able to get. I think
It's kind
like
of like it's kind of like a centralized like shareware back in the day, isn't it? It's sort of a way of being able to give a demo of something, and obviously these are all free to play anyway. But you're giving somebody an incentive to install the demo, to have a play with it, to see if it resonates with them, and then if it does, they carry on and they get rewarded for continuing to play.
yeah. But honestly, I think like I think it's right now it's perfect time to do a rewarded app, and I think any UA person is interested into it, because basically like the share you are saying like between those app and yourself is really good. And actually like even some studio right now, they are doing their own rewarded app. And some people, it's the opposite. Actually, they have the rewarded app and they are thinking about doing studio.
Yeah.
And when you do this, when you think about it, you are saying to your rewarded partner all what are the key elements in your game that make it break even and work. So me, if I was a game developer, I would just install those apps, watch out my main competitor, and see basically their game economy, which is amazing. I'm fascinated with it. I'm reading it every time because like then oh, King is working, or Peak Game is working, and it's insane. But you are giving your deepest product secret to those apps actually.
That's it's both amazing and scary at the same time. coming as X product, it's like I never want to do that. All right, so rewarded is growing. That's cool. What about SRNs? How's that changed over time?
That's a good question. So to be honest,
I mean, when I was there, TikTok wasn't even a thing. So obviously, that's grown to be a big part of the market now.
Yeah, TikTok has been stunning, to be honest, from a creative point of view, but also how to receive the signals, because it's a data game, especially since we lost the ADFA. I think they have not been at the level of Applovin, to be honest. I think Applovin has been really, really good, really strong, and has been able also to, because it's plugged into all the SSPs, DSPs, and things like this, to grow much more efficiently. I think Meta had a really hard time, even if they launched, the Reels and things like this. I saw it working much more on apps versus than games. On iOS, it's still like the biggest channel, basically. I think they do have a strength still on re-engagement and cross promotion, Meta. But on user acquisition is getting super tough, and especially like this end of the year, I think like CPM are so inflated that it makes it really hard to perform, to be honest.
Well, that's the trouble. You end up having, obviously, loads of companies are throwing marketing budget at the end of the year because people are at home. They're sat around with family. It's the ideal time to invest in a new game. But it's also very, very, very high competition, isn't it?
I mean, definitely it is. And actually, it's a matter also of seeing what kind of DAU they are having and how they retain them in the app. And Meta, and the DAU has not been growing as it used to be, where TikTok have been really spiking up. And of course, like Meta has access to audience network, which is an additional network, but the quality has not been always as good as what we used to see on TikTok. And if we compare it to Applovin, like it's night and day. So I think it makes it really tough for them to have a really good baseline. That being said, like a lot of people say, the old audience is of course still on Facebook, which is totally the case, and I'm fully with you. But the CPM at the end of the day are really expensive, especially when you want to do some more advanced, like some advanced, for instance, value optimization campaign and stuff like this. The product didn't evolve so much.
My question there, though, is it guaranteed? Like, yes, it's expensive, but the results are more guaranteed than working with others, though, still, or not.
So the thing is that the product didn't evolve a lot. Like they just launched the AdROAS campaign. So you see impression on my banner. So I mean, good for you. But I mean, like on Android, at the end of the day, like yes, it made more sense because there is more ads on Android. But right now, it's not at the level of the other competitor that did work for years on the AdROAS campaign. Even Google has been working for it for years. Applovin has been nailing it. Now there is new campaign tape from Google, Applovin on day 20.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing the TROAS stuff from Google back in that was at one RovioCon, I think, good few years ago now.
Yeah, and even the PLTV campaign of Google is really strong. I think Google has been working much more than Facebook on the product side of things, and we know a lot of things happen, layoff, and it has been really tough for the industry. And you feel it also in the product at the end of the day, like because it's not as advanced right now that other competitor. I mean, they launched the IEM, of course, it helped them, to come back in the game. But at the same time, TikTok is also launching a lot of solutions to get more signals.
Yeah.
And we all know it's a data game. The more data you get, better you are going to grow.
I've seen some very interesting signs on the product side from Facebook recently, and I think next year they may well return to form.
Okay. I mean, like a retention, even a retention-based campaign would be super amazing, because nowadays we know like the CPI campaigns are dead. We know, like the games are, yes, are as monetized, but they are much and more advanced, and they're able to have a really good retention in the time. So, like a retention product, I think it's something Unity has been doing. It has been working more or less, to be honest, depending on the advertiser, but Facebook has still not been doing it.
Well, hopefully they're listening.
You can call me.
Cool. What about networks? Where do we stand with networks? How's that changed over time?
Yes, so networks consolidated, and we see it honestly in the quality of traffic that you are having. You are much more AdWords campaigns, and I was mentioning the retention campaigns, and the products are evolving, like from day 0, day 7 ROAS and things like this. The only thing here is how it cannibalize its own traffic depending on your portfolio. So I think it's the only thing on the bidding space that I would be really careful of. But outside of this, I think the quality of the traffic that you can get there has been pretty impressive. The network are all becoming, almost like a small DSPs, to be honest, which is quite advanced and quite amazing. People are not doing MAA campaign on network anymore. Like, there is proper learning phase, there is a proper learning, and there is also a really good quality of traffic. So I think a network have been working a lot on their product and value proposition as well.
Interesting. And where like, I'm intrigued. Where do you start? Like, when you start working with a new client now, where do you start? Do you instantly go for SRNs, or do you look at networks, like, or even rewarded now? Like, what's the starting point for you?
Yes, so it depends on the stage, because to be honest, like, even, like the biggest channels, they need to ingest data. And if you have zero downloads, even organically or with paid, you need to have a starting point. For instance, I give you an example with Moloko. Moloko is one of the most successful DSPs, and you can, it's self-serve, so you can really easily use it. But you need at least 2 weeks of data that is sent via AppsFlyer, for instance, prior you even launch the campaign, because they are reading those information. I was saying a network have been really good and improving, but it's because they were able to actually read the unattributed data, and also do also product matching with their algorithm and so on. So usually it really depends on the profile of the app and the monetization. So I'm not going to give you an answer, because
No,
I
that's
think
cool.
what
That's
will be
cool.
true for one
But
will be totally fucked
I
up
guess
for
my
the
question
other.
is, it could be any, or is it between networks and SRNs? Like,
So unfortunately, it can't be any, because there is even on the incent, the best one I love the most, and I'm not going to name it because I don't want to shame it, but because I love them, of course. You need to have at least like more than 10K spent per month. So with the small clients, I won't go for it.
yeah,
Uploading, we know it's $500 per day, so it's a big risk as well for a small studio. I think it all depends about the goals. If there is some product test, you are going to try to have something that is pretty stable. Unity is having a good performance, to be honest, with a good retention. So I would say it's a good starting point. And Meta as well has been a reference. Google retention is a bit low, unfortunately, and takes a bit of time. Their CPI campaign is a bit, hurting usually the product metrics. So if it's for a product test, and they really have zero UA, I would maybe not say to go straight with Google. And if they want, if they are really like an app, I would say go with Apple Search Ads, because it's really what I saw having the best quality of traffic, performance, stability. But it's really expensive, so you need to have a subscription offer that is quite high as well, 7 days, 14 days, and even a year to pay back. So you need to be careful also about the pricing of the app or the game.
interesting. Wow. So quite a lot's changed then, really. And we haven't even touched on navigating Scan and everything else. I did a session earlier in the year with Piyush on Scan, which was quite interesting. But I think there's obviously quite a lot of new places to start. I think it'd be interesting to do another session. We should try and do some with networks and that kind of thing in the future, and sort of have almost debate on different aspects. I think that could be quite interesting.
Yes, and like there is also the question of scan. I mean, like when everyone is doing fingerprinting, reading contextual data, does it even make sense to, or even having their own attribution, right? TikTok, Facebook, and things like this. Does it still make sense to invest on scan as well?
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of companies moving to probabilistic now, there's a big. It's difficult because being able to compete in terms of user acquisition is very difficult to rely solely on scan and be able to compete. I did a really nice interview recently on this podcast with Lucas, who was talking to me about how he relies solely on scan and won't look at probabilistic, which was quite an interesting take on it. And I'm just amazed that he's able to function in that way, but was very adamant on it. So there's very different viewpoints on how to compete, but a lot of the larger companies that I've seen seem to be purely reliant on probabilistic at the moment.
I think it depends. I think apps definitely didn't give up on scan, especially also because they don't trust the network. For them, doing audience network is fraud. Doing app loving is risky and things like this. So usually they won't go on that path, and they are going to focus on scan. But on gaming, I think it's more and more questionable because there is more and more each network doing their own tech, and that's why actually you need your MMP at the end of the day. I think.
But then there's always been this open question hanging over everybody of will they take away probabilistic? Will Apple take that away at some point? So I mean that's still hanging over everybody anyway. So, and nobody has the answers to that one apart from some developers with inside Apple, I'm sure. But yeah, it's an interesting area as to how that will go forward next year and that kind of stuff.
I mean, definitely. I think, like fraud becomes more and more a topic as well, because as we speak about incent, I'm much more scared of fraud than really scan. But I think fraud is going to be massive. I think a topic for upcoming years, especially with this distribution channel that are changing. There is a lot of more alternative store and things like this. To which extent can you actually trust them?
Yeah.
I think your fraud solution will answer to this question.
Let's see. I like to be open-minded. So, all right. So, thank you very much for diving into that. I've got a few other questions, and I normally ask these questions at the end, but I think for you, I've got one extra one, which I've actually just thought of.
More work. You're giving me more work. Like, come on.
I thought we'd have some fun. So, all right, look, I'm going to be really generous, and I've got 20K here to give you for running user acquisition on an app that you're already working with. So it's already got user acquisition running. You've already got a budget for that. So this 20K is for something experimental.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do with it?
So I do micro influencer. So I'm just going to send the Instagram DM to some people from some communities, and
So
things like
you'd
this.
go find them by yourself?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
like there is a middleman fees in a network. We know it in
For sure.
In influencer marketing, it's insane. Like they are going to double the price just because they sent a DM to someone. So I definitely would go send a DM to someone and understand their pricing. Go with it, and half of it I would do incent traffic.
Amazing. Okay, I really like that one. I think I need to. I had a really good session with Marion recently about influencer marketing, and I really love this idea of just like, yeah, I'm just going to reach out to a couple of influencers and see what we can do. I think it's really.
Don't tell it to her because it's maybe what she's actually doing. So.
Yeah. It gave me flashbacks. It was. Okay, cool. What do you wish you'd known earlier in your career that you know now that you think would have helped you?
Oh wow! I mean, I think I would say like it's a fucking roller coaster. Work for yourself, like do your own business, take what you need, you can take, learn what you can learn, and just don't be afraid about your next big thing, because at the end of the day, sometimes there is crazy amount of work, sometimes there is nothing, and it's just okay. I think just Just
Don't
be
panic.
yeah, don't panic.
Yeah,
Be calm.
just roll with it. I like it. I like the optimism. I think that's a good one. All right, and what, like, obviously you've got a lot of knowledge on networks, SRNs, all of the media sources. Like, how did you find that? How can somebody learn all of this stuff?
Oh wow, that's a good question. I think the communities are helping a lot. I think there is all the AppsFlyer report. There is a lot of benchmark, like with
When you say
explanation.
communities, which can you give us a few, just that
Oh,
people
I can
can
give
go
you
look them up?
mine. Yes, I mean, I think the Rzain Society is quite good. We have a Slack channel and we are sharing a lot of information. So we also have a page. So I will definitely say if you are up to join, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I love, all the AppsFlyer benchmark. I think they are really insightful, really good. And outside of this, I mean, like it's also, like you earn your knowledge by experimenting a lot of things. You need to a bit hurt yourself to get something good out of it.
Fail a
So
few times.
yeah. So I think like I have a lot of bad experience that taught me a lot, and I think it's the case for a lot of people. Like do your first overspend because you changed a bid that was too high, kill a total.
Saying that, meeting people like you at conferences and just having conversations around it can actually save some of that pain, presumably, because you've got some of that experience that you can impart on people.
Yeah, I think conferences are good. Like I see a lot of good content. I think 2.5 Gamers have a lot of also good content that you can listen to.
Oh, Mate's
Even
got some
myself,
fantastic stuff. Yeah.
I think they are really good on admin side as well. And but I think you learn by doing. Like I've been doing ad monetization only for 5 years, and I've been doing UA for 10 years, and the only way I learned is by like year by year, seeing the seasonality, adding new network and things like this. I think you learn by doing, honestly. So I think experiment, be in a company, where you can do several things. You have the ability to touch to a large thing in the opposite of being hyper specialized. I think corporations are giving you really few entrepreneurial opportunities because you will be from 5,000 people to being yourself when you do your business.
Yeah.
And it's not the same game.
Yeah, for sure. And you get a more holistic view of stuff because presumably if you're just running Facebook at a larger company, then you don't get that full visibility of everything else that's going on, right?
Yes, and I think there is supply and demand. Like me, what I'm selling the most is all what is hands-on. Like people, they need someone. It's CEOs, they're not UA managers. They just want someone to do the sheet, do the waterfalls, the thing, and stuff like this. So like you need to think about also your own interest, I think.
Yeah. Well, Claire, you are an absolute UA legend. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure catching up with you. And I'm sure I'll see you at PGC London.
Yeah, see you there. I can't wait. Take care, Adam.
Amazing. Thank you.